What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the CPA Zone, the podcast where we discuss tax strategies and accounting tips for entrepreneurs and real estate investors. My name is Ryan Pulis, and our company, the Pulis Group, offers tax planning and advisory services for entrepreneurs like you. Whether it's bookkeeping, tax planning, or CFO services that you're looking for, we've got you covered. What's up, everybody? Ryan Pulis here with another episode of the CPA Zone. Today, we're going to talk about the business meals deduction. So the IRS allows deductions for certain business meal expenses. However, there's specific rules and limitations that apply. So first, as with any expense, it must be ordinary and necessary in carrying on your business. This means it should be common and accepted in your trade or business and helpful and appropriate. So necessary essentially means helpful and appropriate for your business, not necessarily that it's required an expense. So most businesses are going to have occasions where a meal expense fits this ordinary and necessary criteria. One of the second tests that needs to be met is it needs to be directly related to or associated with your business. So this test is met if the meal precedes or follows a substantial business discussion with a business contact, or if the meal expense is incurred while on business travel. So you or one of your employees must be present when the food and beverages are furnished. But otherwise, as long as there's a business discussion during the meal, before the meal, or right after the meal, with a business contact or while on business travel, you're going to meet and pass this test. Next, you must keep records that substantiate the expense, the meal's expense. This is going to include the amount, the date it took place, the location or place where the meal was had, the business purpose, and the business relationship with the individuals at the meal. Another rule is the expense cannot be lavish or extravagant. So in other words, this just means it should be reasonable. Now, what's reasonable will depend on the facts and circumstances. So a $500 dinner for your side hustle that maybe has $10,000 in revenue a year, that dinner is probably going to be considered lavish and extravagant. However, that same dinner with a different client, maybe a celebrity type client, might not be considered lavish and extravagant. Maybe your business is centered around A-list celebrities, and taking them out to a $500 dinner is just a standard dinner for them. So it's going to depend on those facts and circumstances. Now, most business meal deductions are limited to 50%. So, for example, if you spend $50 on a business meal, your deduction's generally going to be half of that, so $25. However, there's some exceptions that allow a 100% deduction for business meals. Currently, things that qualify for 100% deduction for business meals are meals that are meal expenses treated as compensation to your employees, so basically you're putting it into their W-2. Employee recreational meals, things like team building and social events. Now, these need to be primarily for your non-highly compensated employees. So highly compensated employees include owners and those employees making more than $155,000 a year. That $155,000 is the threshold for 2024. An example of this would be a Christmas or holiday party for your employees. That's generally going to be 100% deductible. Also, meals made available to the general public are 100% deductible. An example of this would be, let's say you're a real estate agent and you provide snacks and refreshments at an open house. That's 100% deductible. Meals that are subject to the 50% limitation are things like travel meals, so meals consumed while traveling for business, office snacks and meals, meals with a client vendor or other business associate, meals at conferences, meals with an employee or two, just a few employees, not a whole company-wide event. Those are all going to be subject to that 50% limitation. Now, entertainment costs prior to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act used to be 50% deductible as well. Now, effective with the passing of Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, entertainment costs are non-deductible, so 0%. Now, if you have meal with the entertainment and the expense is clearly separate from the entertainment expense, you can deduct the cost of the meal, assuming it meets all the other criteria for a business meal deduction. So, for example, if you take a client to a baseball game, the ticket's not deductible. That's entertainment. But if you have food and a few drinks at the game, that's going to qualify for the 50% meal deduction, as long as it's business related. Now, an exception to the non-deductibility of entertainment costs are those that relate to employee social events. So again, like our company Christmas party or some other employee social event, a company party that's primarily for the benefit of the non-highly compensated employees, though that's an exception to that 0% deductibility, and those costs are generally going to be deductible at 100%. We briefly mentioned there's documentation requirements for your meals deduction. So to claim a deduction for business meals, you need to keep detailed records that include the cost of the meal, the date and location where the meal took place, purpose of the meal and how it relates to your business, and the relationship of the people involved at the meal and how they relate to your business. So, for example, what I normally do, if I take a client out to a meal or a potential client, I'll get my receipt that's going to have the cost and the date, especially if you're paying with a credit card. I always pay with a credit card. And the location is going to have the company name on there. And then I make a note on the receipt, who I ate with, and just a brief memo of what we discussed. Then I take a picture and I save that picture of the receipt with my other backup. And we have the documentation. We attach it to the transaction in our accounting file. We're all set. So it's important you have that documentation. Meals and travel, these costs they have more strict documentation requirements than other business expenses. And it's because this area is prone to abuse, especially historically. The business meal deduction is a great way to shift what would otherwise be a personal after-tax expense into a pre-tax category. So when you're going out to eat, you're a business owner, you should always be thinking how you can turn that meal into a legitimate business expense. It's one of the great benefits of being a business owner is being able to shift expenses that would otherwise be personal into this business category and take the tax deduction. Just make sure you do it correctly and you have your documentation. So in summary, while business meal expenses are generally deductible, they are subject to various rules and documentation requirements. The general deduction for business meals is typically 50% of the expense. However, there's some exceptions allowing full deduction under certain conditions that we talked about. Keeping good records, again, is just essential to substantiate your claim. I hope you found value in this episode. If so, please leave a 5-star review and hit that like and subscribe button. If there's any topics you'd like to hear covered in the future, please leave a comment and we'll try to pick that up on a future episode. Until next time, have a great day. So that about does it for this episode of the CPA Zone. Thanks for listening, and I hope you found something valuable that you can take away. We are taking on new clients, and if you'd like to work with us, then go to our website and fill out the client intake form on our contact page. This can be found at thepulisgroup.com/contact. That's ThePulicegroup.com/contact.